Good afternoon, everybody. Phil Simons here with Columbia Grain and your Friday afternoon weekly grain market recap. Well, we have another one in the books, but not after we actually took quite a bit of gas, specifically out of the soybean market here this week, as we did have the latest round of WASDE report come out on Monday with the planting intentions along with the quarterly stocks reports. Well, let's go ahead and dive right into it as there was a little bit to go over here this week. So I'm going to share my screen with you again. We're going to navigate over to our favorite website, columbiagrain.com. And in the upper right-hand corner, we're going to go to the Producer Solutions tab, where we house all of our Producer Solutions data, which could be potentially driving the markets. But again, this week we did start the week out with the March 31st planning intentions report. We actually did have a pretty good recap on that earlier in the week, along with the quarterly stocks numbers. So definitely take a look at that to see what the numbers are potentially looking like for new crop corn, soybeans, and spring wheat as we continue to move forward here. But this week, we did have quite a bit of volatility hit the markets once again. We did kind of put an exclamation point on the markets here today as we saw continued selling pressure really kind of hit the commodity complex as a whole. We did kind of close a little bit off the lows throughout the complex, but we did take a little bit of gas here this week. Primarily, I mean, the bottom line is really coming down to President Trump's tariff announcements yesterday afternoon. Is basically a 10% baseline tariff will be put on all imports into the U.S. effective April 5th. With individual countries' tariffs generally set at about a half of what the country's combined import tariffs are on any U.S. products. Again, beginning April 9th on that. So still more to come, and definitely going to continue to see more, whipsaw type action. There was also, just to kind of follow that up, there was a senior White House official that did say that there's an exemption on USMCA compliant goods from Mexico and Canada, and that will continue, allowing imports of Canadian wheat, canola oil, meal, and meal actually to remain tariff free. But again, still definitely more to come as we continue to kind of deep dive into what the end implications could potentially be kind of moving forward here. But again, yesterday we did have also the export sales numbers. So let's go ahead and take a look at those as well. And in all reality, corn, wheat, and soybeans kind of came fairly in range with where the estimates had them coming in at. Corn really kind of in the middle of the road in terms of where the estimates had them coming in at, but we actually came in at 46.2 million bushels sold on the week from last week. Actually, pretty good number there. On soybeans, actually kind of coming in at the lower end of the range, coming in at 15.1 million bushels sold on the week last week. And all wheats coming in a little bit above, quite honestly, where the overall estimates had it coming in at pre-report in terms of where the export sales numbers could potentially be. And they came in at 12.5 million bushels for sales for last week. And then you can see kind of the breakdown by class and how we're stacking up there. So actually a fairly decent round of sales of wheat last week. Now, the other thing that we're going to have next week to kind of set the stage on Monday is we're going to have the first official crop ratings report be released, and just to kind of show you where we wound or where we went into the winter months. So the last official NASS good to excellent conditions report that we had from winter wheat was on November 24th of last year. And the U.S. on average was coming in at 55% good to excellent ratings for the winter wheat conditions. So it's going to be interesting to see where the first glance comes in come Monday after the markets close. We'll have those fresh numbers from NASS in terms of where they see the winter wheat conditions report in terms of the good to excellent ratings. Again, Montana on November 24th was coming in at 39% good to excellent. Idaho was at 47%. Washington State was at 48%, and Oregon, was at 54%. So going to be interesting to see where those numbers come out on Monday to see what has happened throughout the winter months here. But really, again, just to kind of put a cap on what we saw throughout the week and how the dust settled here today, really did kind of have a mixed bag. We did take quite a bit of gas out of the markets here today, but net on net, kind of take a look and see what we saw on the week. We do see that D's 25 corn had a weekly range of 13 cents and actually wound the week up with a net gain of 4 cents on the week. And when we look at November beans, November 25 beans, we actually had a 39-cent weekly range there. Actually, we're down 32 cents week on week. So we did close a little bit off the weekly lows, but still only by about, 4 or 5 cents. So we did come up a little bit, but not by much. When we look at the wheat complex, we do see that Kansas September had an overall weekly range of 22 cents, closing the week out with a net loss of 12 cents on the week. And Chicago wheat had a 23-cent range there, closing the week out with a net loss of 4 cents. And then finally wrapping everything up over in Minneapolis, spring wheat had a 20-cent range, but actually closed the week out with a weekly change of 0, a big goose egg, over in Minneapolis, but better than a loss, I suppose. So better than in terms of what we could have seen on the other side of that. So other than that, we're going to go ahead and wrap everything up for the weekend here. Just remember on Monday next week, we will have the crop progress report released, and that's going to be the first one of the new year. So definitely going to be getting a lot of eyes and could be pushing the markets around, just after we could get a first glance of what the potential winter wheat conditions looks like going forward. So other than that, we're going to go ahead and wrap everything up for the weekend here. Hope everybody has a great weekend. And remember, the first 5 letters of broker spell broke. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk with you next week.